Hello, this is Chef John from foodwishes.com with Make Ahead Frozen Yogurt Parfaits. That's right, parfait does mean perfect in French, which is very fitting since these are perfectly easy and I think a perfect make ahead frozen summer treat. So to summarize, these parfaits are parfait. And by the way, we're achieving all this perfection without having to use an ice cream maker. But before we get to the yogurt components, I'm going to go ahead and start with my fruit components, which for me began with some fresh raspberries, to which I added some white sugar. And then what we'll do is grab a potato masher, and we will smash these berries into a puree, at which point I'm going to cover this and let it sit on the counter for an hour or two, to, as we call in the business, macerate, which is where we mix fruit and sugar together so that the sugar draws out all that amazing goodness from the fruit. And if you've ever made our State Fair lemonade, where we do this to the lemon peels, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So that's exactly what I did, and about an hour and a half later I went ahead and uncovered it. And my what is now basically a raspberry sauce was ready to go, except it has like 8 million seeds in it, which I do not want harshening up my frozen yogurt buzz later. So before we pop this in the fridge, let's go ahead and pass it through a fine mesh strainer, which will take a couple minutes. But when we're done, we are left with just 100% pure raspberry goodness. And then once that was set, because I'm going to layer my parfait with blueberries as well, I went ahead and added those right to this bowl, and then gave everything a quick mix. And having them sit in this raspberry sauce is not really going to do too much to the blueberries, although they might macerate a little bit. But I'm mostly doing this just to save time when we layer our parfait, so I can add just 1 spoon of this instead of having to do the sauce and the blueberries separately. And then once that was done, I moved on to my second component, which was some homemade granola, featuring oatmeal, almonds, coconut, and pumpkin seeds. And of course you could just buy ready-to-use granola. But if you haven't gotten the memo, granola is like the easiest thing to make in the world. And if you want to do it yourself, this is what you do. You add your oatmeal and any other ingredients to a bowl, and then we toss in a little bit of salt, a little bit of brown sugar, followed by some maple syrup. And you can, if you want, also use honey or a combination, but I prefer straight maple. And then we will finish up with a little bit of vegetable oil to help get this nice and crispy and toasty in the oven. And that's it. All we need to do is give this a thorough mixing, at which point we'll transfer this onto a Silpat-lined baking sheet, or you can, if you want to, just use parchment paper or some oiled foil. But anyway, we'll transfer that on and spread it out evenly into a layer about 1/4 to a 1/2 inch thick. And then to finish this, it simply goes in a 275-degree oven for about 1 hour and 15 minutes, or until it's lightly golden brown and crunchy when it's cooled. And please note that last thing I just said. Okay, if you try this when it first comes out of the oven and it's still warm, you will get no indication about the final texture, since granola has to cool all the way down to room temp before it gets crispy. So that's what we'll do. And once it is cool, it will take on that flaky, crunchy texture that we all know and love. And that's really all there is to making homemade granola, which you can now make at home yourself for the rest of your life. And it will be better, cheaper, and you can put in whatever you want. But anyway, we'll crumble that up and set it aside until we need it. And we can move on to the actual point of this video, how to make your own frozen yogurt without any cooking or an ice cream machine. And that starts with some full-fat Greek-style yogurt. All right, you can use the low-fat stuff if you want, but don't. It doesn't work as good. And then to this we will add some vanilla extract, of course the pure and the real, plus about 1 teaspoon of freshly grated lemon zest. And then last but not least, a little touch of sugar. Just kidding. We have to whisk in a lot of sugar. And this really is the secret to this technique. Okay, if we use 1 part sugar to 4 parts yogurt, when this stuff freezes, it won't crystallize and get all icy and crunchy. It'll actually retain a very nice, smooth, creamy mouthfeel. So this really is crucial texturally. But of course, it also sweetens the yogurt and gives it this is almost like ice cream flavor. But anyway, we'll go ahead and whisk that vigorously and enthusiastically for a few minutes until that sugar dissolves and our mixture is nice and light and fluffy. And believe it or not, that's it. We are now ready to start layering our parfaits. And to make that easier, I like to transfer this into a plastic bag or a piping bag, which is probably easier, faster, and neater than trying to spoon it in. So I transferred that in and snipped off the tip. And then I grabbed a jar and started to build my parfait. And I'm going to layer mine by doing granola, then fruit, then yogurt. And then granola, then fruit, then yogurt. And then granola and fruit, and then we'll finish with yogurt. And to me, a perfect frozen yogurt parfait needs 3 components. All right, we need our creamy frozen yogurt. We need some kind of saucy element, whether that includes fruit or not. And then we need some kind of texture, which for me is going to be the granola. And one tip here as we build these layers, I like to grab my old tappa towel and give these the old tappa to settle those ingredients down and to remove any air pockets. And the reason I like to use the old tappa towel is because if we don't, we might end up in the ER getting the old stitcha. So please be careful when you're tapping these down. And just because I'm trying to do a relatively healthy version here with the granola and the fresh fruit, doesn't mean you have to. All right, instead of granola, you could use crushed up cookies or crumbled up brownies or cake. And you could layer that with different kinds of nuts. Right? You could do something like ginger snaps with fresh peach, or strawberry banana chocolate to do like a banana split version, or maybe like a chocolate fudge sauce with some toasted almonds and coconut. Okay, all this is up to you. I mean, you are after all the Tammy Faye of making the perfect parfait. Oh, and in case you're wondering, no, the granola is not going to stay crispy and crunchy. All right, used in this manner, it's going to actually get chewy, which might not sound like a great thing, but it actually is. And believe it or not, it's going to taste sort of like cooked pie crust, which is why Michelle thinks these things taste sort of like cheesecake. And you know what? I tend to agree. And yes, you do get extra credit if you build yours in a jar that literally has the word parfait printed on the side. Oh yeah, these parfait jars are parfait for parfait. But anyway, I went ahead and did 3 layers. And after that last yogurt layer, I'm going to go ahead and garnish with a few blueberries and a few drops of our absolutely beautiful raspberry sauce. And that's it, our parfait is now ready to parfreeze. So I'm going to go ahead and screw on this absolutely adorable lid, and then we'll pop that in the freezer until it's frozen solid. So I do recommend you make these way ahead of time, preferably overnight. And that's it, the next day we can pull that out. At which point we should probably let it sit and soften up for about a half hour, so it's a little easier to eat. Or if we haven't had breakfast and we're starving, we can take a spoon and try to dig right in while it's still rock hard, which I'm attempting to do here. And what I find so amazing about these is that even though it's still frozen solid and super hard and firm, and it might seem like it's going to be kind of crystallized and icy, once this goes in your mouth, it actually has a shockingly smooth and creamy texture. And as it sits and softens up, it gets even creamier and smoother. And fair warning, these take a long time to thaw out. Which, by the way, is what makes them so perfect for like a summertime picnic or cookout. Or you can take these from the freezer and pop them into your cooler with the rest of your food. And by the time you're finished with your sandwiches and your salads and your whatever, these will still be partially frozen and in an absolutely perfect condition to enjoy. All right, so we have a huge window of enjoyment time, since these are great right out of the freezer, all the way to the point where they're fully thawed, but still very cold. And they really are fantastic at both extremes. And of course, any place in the middle. So I just absolutely love this technique. Oh, and since these are make-ahead, what you can do is whip up the yogurt component, and you can put out different fixins, different kind of cookie crumbs and cake crumbs and nuts and fruit and so forth. And everybody can layer their own, and then screw on the lid. And that way everybody's parfait can be exactly what they think makes a parfait parfait. And of course, maybe put your initials on them so someone like me, who realizes later they don't like frozen blueberries, isn't able to accidentally eat yours by claiming I thought it was mine. But no matter what you decide to use to make your parfait perfect and your perfect parfait, I really do hope you give these a try soon. So please follow the links below for the ingredient amounts, a printable written recipe, and much more info as usual. And as always, enjoy.